Today we are going to talk about what makes a great homepage, and after that, we're going to have office hours. So, if you have questions about your own website and editing it, please think of those and go ahead and put those questions in the chat right now and throughout this smaller first part presentation. That way, Hannah and other team members of ours can watch for those. But we are excited that you're here, and we are hoping that you'll have a couple questions for us, and perhaps this webinar will spark some other ideas that you can ask about. All right. So for today's presentation, this is going to be probably roughly a 10-minute presentation, maybe a little bit more, depending on how deep we get into things and if you have questions. And during this time, we're going to very quickly cover not all of the things about a homepage, but I picked a few that I feel will help you as you continue to edit and think about content on your website. All right. I'm just getting refreshing. There we go. So first of all, we're going to cover what is a homepage, how can you design it to help your audience, where and how are people using your homepage. We have data and we can help you with that. Also, some ideas for how you can improve your homepage today, like before 5 o'clock today, things you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. There we go. So the basics of a homepage. What is the homepage? Essentially, the homepage is the URL address that you put in to land on your website. That is essentially your homepage. And so it's going to be important to make sure that when you're sharing and marketing this digital resource, that it actually behaves in the way that people can find what it is they're looking for, and maybe even things they didn't know they were looking for. What is the goal of your homepage, or of a homepage in general? Your main goal is going to be to have a visual representation of your purpose, like your website's purpose. So what is this digital resource available for? Like, why is it here? Why does it exist? How should people use it? And that should be represented both visually and through text. So sometimes it may be one or the other, but it should be an and situation. The visuals and the text should express the purpose of the website. It also is going to include a main navigation, like header area, and footer. And so those are two common best practices that websites have, and we'll get into some things like familiarity. And so that's part of the reason that you're always going to see a header and a footer, is that familiarity to the site visitor. There's a lot more depth to the word familiarity and what it means and how we can help accomplish that for our users. So what are the parts of a website? I just went into those. So the third one is designed layout. So there's multiple kinds of layouts that you can have for a homepage. And there is research-based data that expresses the basics of what these are. And we can list many, right? Like some use cards, some are just a flat one column set of information. Some are doing crazy things like making you scroll to the right and to the left and things move and change and whatnot. So there's a couple things that I've learned in doing some research on home pages. And one is that we tend to really like sometimes to see that really interesting, cool changing, shifting sort of homepage that is almost like a game. It just feels gamified. But there are those websites generally that are designed in that way aren't getting most of the users to their company, to their product, to how, you know, they're selling whatever, maybe they're selling something, usually aren't going to be like through the website. So they have a lot more leeway to express these kinds of interesting things so that if someone lands on it, they can get there, but maybe folks go a different way to really get to their content. I think about this in terms of oftentimes like influencers on Instagram might have people that are reaching their information and content through Instagram. Like that's how they connect, that's how they sell their products, that's how they sell their courses, that's how they do everything is through Instagram. So they have a website presence so that that content is more succinct, but it could be really cool and have like a big video of them or a big picture of them on the front or something. So our websites are different in that regard, in that they are a primary purpose and responsibility at Iowa State University to get people the information that they need. And so I just wanted to express that a little bit. And we have a new theme coming out which addresses this and has a lot of really cool options. With that said, like for your homepage. Stay tuned for that. So how can I use design to help my audience? So one thing that makes people feel really comfortable is that familiarity in the structure and a visual brand. And we all know that a new visual brand is just around the corner. And having that visual consistency is going to be comforting and make people feel like they're going to be able to find what they're looking for on this website, because it operates and behaves like other Iowa State University websites, and they're going to be confident in that and stay on your website. With that, we also know that in the research I did, even if you have the best homepage ever, like you have done everything possible to make it work for your audience, research has shown that even in that case, 75% of people find what they're looking for, but you still have 25% of people, even with the most clear, focused homepage that you could make, with the most familiar design, you're still losing potential, like up to like 25% of people usually. So it just reiterates the point that that familiarity and that brand is super important for you to get the most interaction with your content, and hopefully an action item or a goal to follow where they actually get in contact with you. So hierarchy of content using visual focus. This is really important when you're thinking about images and you're thinking about how you want to design and style your pages. A lot of this is going to be available to you as part of the visual guidelines and part of the system where like professional designers have really thought about this. So what that means is you really, if you have a, for example, a page full of black text and maybe there's 3 different cards in a row with black text, and your image is you really don't have many images, let's say, and there's just a whole bunch of content. What happens is that becomes really busy. It's hard for people to focus on where it is that they're supposed to go on your site. And so that's why we need to use that hierarchy to do that. We can do it through imagery, for example. Okay, I'm going to see the image first, and then my eye is going to go to the next block, and then my eye is going to scroll a little bit and know that there's more information, and then I'm going to see another picture, and then I'm going to find something that looks interesting, and I'm going to click on it. Additionally, I can't not mention accessibility. We need to make sure that our sites are accessible. We've talked about that at length, and that it is functional on multiple devices. So here's an example of page 23 of the visual guidelines, the new ones that have been released at Iowa State. And this is what the university right now is working on as a group. But I wanted to show you this to express like what it means to have familiarity and what it means to have the visual hierarchy. So you can see here that there's obviously a visual hierarchy with the images and the content, what you see first, what you see second, what you see third, and there's consistency in the brand, in the type, in how it's going to operate for people across the campus. So how do you know if people are finding your content? We have several different pieces of data that you can access for your specific website. And this may seem overwhelming at first to be like, first of all, how do I get to this heat map, and how do I go to this heat map, and where is it, and how do I find it? We have Matomo, which you should be receiving a monthly report for, that showcases some of the different items in an email. You can log in using your ISU NetID and password, and we can help you with that when you're ready. So please email us at websupport@iustate.edu. I promise it's not as complicated as it might look. So you'll be able to access it easily and see at least your homepage for sure. Like what is a heat map? So this is just an example. I don't remember how far ago this was from, but this is a example of a heat map, and it showcases in the red blobs where people are clicking most. So you'll be able to tell that. We also can track user journeys. So there's short snippets of time. Like when a person is on your website, what are they doing? Where's their mouse and where's their cursor and where they focus the most? This particular one is just a random out of many, and you can see the lines where the person's mouse went in 8 seconds. It's just an 8-second one. Also, we can help you track goals and differences based on changes that you make to your homepage. So this is from the Matomo blog that Hannah shared with me, and it's something that we can help you to do. And we've already been doing this on a few websites for folks where we're not sure, for example, what people might prefer. So it's a case where maybe you're thinking folks would get to your content via a little button, or would a larger image be more helpful for them? And maybe in the new visual system, looking at it in terms of perhaps call out text and an image that's like half the size of the top of the page, is that going to work? And so you can do this by changing your homepage every week, or you can do it every week or every 2 weeks or something. We can help you and set that up for you and test and see if people click on it. Do they click on your content, this big story item or whatever, more when it's a large picture, or it actually has more content and text with it? Or do they click on it more through a button because they're interested in some other story on your homepage? We can help you figure that out. How can I improve my homepage today? So this is the last main piece of the presentation today. I'd recommend scheduling yourself about 30 minutes once a week to focus on your homepage. And the reason I say 30 minutes is because I'm guessing that most of us are really busy and we probably aren't scheduling any time at this time to work specifically on our homepage. So put it in your calendar. Don't forget that your calendar can be used for you as well. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a meeting with someone else. Maybe you're scheduling that meeting with yourself to take 30 minutes once a week to work on your homepage. And if you're having trouble carving that time out, this is an excellent way and method to do that. And it'll make sure that people don't schedule you into something else during that time. I find personally that Friday afternoons are an excellent time to do this. You can log into Matomo and learn one new thing about your website visitors. So log in, see what it looks like, just familiarize yourself with it, start to try and understand maybe where your top content is. That's probably going to be your 30 minutes for the first week. You don't have to necessarily do anything, but you did do something major in figuring out how to do it. So the next week, you're more familiar, and then you're even more familiar, and you can actually make improvements using the tools that exist. You can change the largest image on your website and link it to a recent piece of content. So this could be done. I've seen a lot of websites have an image that has been the same image for literally years, like years. So that's one thing you can do. Like, if just change that image and link it to something relevant, like a piece of recent content on your website. That's going to improve your website dramatically in 30 minutes. Write 2 sentences that describe the purpose of your website and add them to your homepage. So this 2 sentences, maybe you'll spend 2 or 3 weeks working on those 2 sentences in your 30 minutes. And that's totally fine, because those 2 sentences are going to drive so much more connection to your site visitors that it's worth spending that time to do that. And make sure that your contact information is correct. That's something simple that you could even do today. You just make sure your contact information is correct. And with that, I wanted to put up our email, websupport@iastate.edu. If you have any questions, please email us. And now it is time for office hours. Does anybody have any questions about your website or your homepage? Things that you've thought about during this presentation? We are here. Something that has come up this week quite a bit in the last couple weeks is, will my website get the new Iowa State theme? And the answer is yes. Yes, it will. So I want to make sure that all of our content editors and site owners know that we are diligently working on updating, like making the theme work with the platform. And so eventually your site will get updated. It's going to be a little while, I will say that, just because there's a lot of cool features in the platform. So we need to make sure that it all works with the new theme, and it will be rolling out as we get that completed.
And we have a question.
Yeah.
I've heard the phrase landing page rather than home page. I've read there is a difference, but not sure I understand the difference.
Excellent question. I'll take that one and I'll let you take the next one. So I use the term interchangeably, landing page and home page. The main difference is a home page is a landing page, but landing pages throughout your website are not home pages. So a home page is different because it is all encompassing of your entire website. So that makes it a home page because it's highlighting the main content for your website and trying to get people to the under levels of the site. The landing pages, like on a site, could be academics, for example. If you click on the academics main menu link, it usually takes you to what's referred to as a landing page, meaning that it has usually blocks of content that are perhaps styled differently, like interactively, so that they highlight specific information that you can click on. And also, they're not, it's different than a page, because generally a page consists of a title, a body section where, yes, you can add images and files and videos, but it's usually a one column like set of information, where a landing page you can get a little bit more jazzy, I guess you could say. I hope that helps a little bit.
I have one thing to add to that. The term landing page kind of goes back to the idea about the page people land on your website. So a landing page can really be any page on your website, but for most like marketing cases, we say a landing page is a page that we've set up specifically for visitors who land on your website and know exactly what action you want them to perform. So your landing page might be an event page where you have all the information they need to know about the event, when it is, what time, and then click a button to register. So a landing page is just like a complete picture of information you want your visitor to know about whatever that page is. And then we have two kind of terms we use within our team, which is a basic page and a landing page. And as Anne was just saying, the landing page is one we have more flexibility on with blocks and things. And then the basic page is just a text box with a title. So that's kind of two different contexts we have for that specific question. The next question might be better for Anne. It's how long have we been using Matomo? I'm a lot newer to the team than she is, so I think we've been using it the whole time. I don't know if we transitioned from Google, but I'll let you answer that. Oh, you're muted. Still muted, I think. I think she's having a hard time getting unmuted, but I did hear from John. We've been using it for almost 10 years and started in 2013. So,
Yeah.
we recently kind of enhanced our Matomo platform and purchased new features such as the heat map and the visual recordings. And we have some A/B testing features that we can activate on your site on a case-by-case basis. So if you are interested in those services, please feel free to reach out to our team and we can set up a meeting and get the tracking started on your sites for you.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I was muted. I think, yes, we are mostly like Matomo is our go-to. That's where we have our analytics. We have used it's a the technical transition is something that I think others on the team could help you with specifically, in terms of making that transition and what it takes to run Matomo versus Google Analytics. And if you're technically wanting that information, we can help you. From the user side, much of the same information is in Matomo as Google Analytics. And I've actually found Matomo to be a lot more comprehensive, especially with some of the tools that Hannah and John have added lately, than what I have experienced in Google Analytics, but they're very comparable. So what are any restrictions for homepage modification? For example, the home, events, resources, and team tabs cannot be removed, right? What other limits exist? That's a great question. And I guess I can feel that. Hannah, jump in. So there are certain things that are going to automatically appear on your homepage when you add a feature. So for example, if you add the resources feature, you're going to automatically get a resources button in the main menu and things like that when we basically build the site for you and hand it off. That's how it'll happen. And generally, we'll create a homepage when we give you that website, and you're going to be able to you'll probably have resources on the homepage and events and different pieces of content that, depending on what system you're in, if you're in the previous platform, we're able to change that for you. So pretty much the sky is the limit. If you have certain things that you want on your homepage or you want changed, we can help you to change that. If you have a faculty site, you can go in and move some of those things around yourself. The other sites are a little more advanced, and we have a lot of additional capabilities. So that's why we do that. You are in the new theme able to update, for example, the number of resources that appear on your homepage, or the number of blog posts that appear on your homepage, and things like that. But if you don't want them there, they don't have to be there.
Yeah, I would add that some of the things that you mentioned in the comment, those are what look to be links in your main navigation, which is part of the header. And we have the ability to edit your header, but we always want to make sure your header is consistent across your website. So on every single link that you go to, that header looks the same, as Anne mentioned, for consistency for your visitor. And then the same with the footer. So these are just quick access links for your visitors so that they don't necessarily have to start over from the landing page to go to the next step, but they can keep flowing through your website with those quick links.
The next question, can you talk more about the group and timeline for moving to the new theme? Will there be a future session about this? Sure. So right now, we are in, I think that the new theme transition is in phases. And so at this time, we're in early stages of a testing phase where we're working through getting all of these different components working. So, for example, we have, we're looking at the new theme, and there's a lot of cool elements in the new theme. And so how are those really neat elements going to work with our really neat features? So we have projects, we have news, we have like big profile pages. We have all these different neat things, and we want them to look and match the visual guideline. So which elements are we going to take to use for those? And that's where we're at right now. I hesitate to say, like, do we have a hard, deadline and things like that. The hardest deadline that we have is the one that was given by the president, stating that next summer, all the websites that pertain directly to prospective students, future students, those need to be in the new theme. And that's what our goal is to strive to make sure to try and get those websites moved along, of course. And we will be in contact with you as we learn more. Will you have the new theme on your site by the end of this year? Probably not, would be my response. And I think that's the best that I can give you right now. It'll be sometime into the new year.
I would just like to add that you don't have to wait for the new theme to be updating your site. I think it's a great time to be auditing your content and making sure your main navigation and your user flows are in the place that you want them to be, so that when we have that theme for you guys, you can just switch it on and it's not, oh, I have a new theme, now it's time to redo my whole website and all my content. So you guys can be making these changes beforehand in your current theme, and then at the time of the switch, there won't be any lag time for you having your website where you want it.
Right. And I will say that on our team, we're working really hard to update the theme so that it's not, for example, we're not necessarily in every case like creating a brand new website because it has a new theme. Like, our goal is to like change the design. So it's kind of like, a costume change, right? Like, that's our idea. And that's our goal. So our goal would be to make that costume change for all of the faculty sites, for example, which we're investigating doing them all through scripting. So you'd be able to have that update when it's ready. I hope that helps. It is different than the last, like some of you were like still in the process of migration. That's a different concept than a theme change. Migration, there is a new website. It is different. The content does have to move. The content does have to go from one website to another website. With a theme change, the content can stay on the website, like Hannah said, and we just change its costume. We change what it looks like, but you don't have to actually do that or migrate that content. Great questions. Are there any other questions for us? Awesome. I'm excited that you all had some things that you could share today. We look forward to meeting with you for the next webinar. Please watch your email for that link, and we will see you next time. Bye.